Coming up, Bennett pulls a trick out of the hat. The Sharks enjoy a feeding frenzy at Coss Harbour, and Catalan hand Wigan a donut. Yes, hello, and welcome back to the Sideline Chat podcast, a one-stop shop for rugby league. Along with Mark Henry, I'm Conor Marcellus, and today we have got your NRL round 12 and 13 debrief with the added bonus of State of Origin analysis. But before we get into all of that, we got to start off with the round 12 action wrap, starting off the Melbourne Storm 40, downing the Broncos 12.
We all knew what the scoreline was going to be with Melbourne hammering the Broncos, and it certainly did. But you had to say the Broncos were in the contest early, even though they didn't score until the second half. They were. It took 17 minutes before Melbourne finally crossed over, so it was really end-to-end stuff.
I definitely felt like the Broncos had a competitive edge for the first 25 minutes, despite the flattering scoreline at the end of it. But they just didn't have any direction to it.
Yeah. It's just been a story of all the season, practically. They are all season. They are getting more and more points on the board slowly, but it's still not going to be enough. It's going to be too little, too late.
Yeah. Again, it was telltale signs early with Brandon Smith diving over from close range. Wasn't it off a Nelson offload? Because I feel like there was one try he scored where it came off a Nelson Asofa Solomona offload.
I think it was the first one. Oh, no, I think it was the second one. Because Brandon Smith, I think, just went out and under. So, no, it was good. Brandon Smith getting a double, which is good to see for him, and helps play at his spot even more and send out a possible Origin call up later on in his career, sooner rather than later, I reckon.
The worrying thing was, I think, the way they conceded George Jennings' try. That's just, you can't afford to do that, can you?
No way. It's just where they're at the moment, Brisbane. It's like they've got they start off well, then just go downhill.
One
really
try,
fast.
1 or 2 tries it takes, and then you just fall off the face of the earth.
Yes, I said I've probably, I don't know how many episodes ago, but once one or two things don't go the Broncos' way, they just go back into their shell and don't come out. So
exactly.
That's what happened when George Jennings went across. Something didn't go their way, and downhill they went.
How would you rate Cooper John's impact on this game, considering there was no Cameron Munster again, and he got his shot in the halves?
I reckon he had a pretty good game, to be honest. Like, he's had a very limited game time, but he had a pretty good game, and even scoring a try 3 minutes into the second half just helps him even more, which is good. Helps build his confidence up, and hopefully got a big future ahead.
Well, there's actually this funny question amongst the Channel 9 commentary team, just like, where would he go to for advice? Because that is the question when you carry the name Johns, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you either go to your dad or go to your uncle.
I know which one I'd be going to.
I'll be going to his uncle, Joey.
Yeah, the one that's actually successful.
Oh, wait, or was it Kurt Gidley? So he's got 3 options. If you don't know, there was a little joke on a radio show last year or year before.
With Matty Johns, the stitch up. I actually forgotten half of that. That's all I remember from the Channel 9 commentary was, who would he go to for advice? Would he go to the great Andrew Johns, 2-time premiership winner, managed to play out his whole career at Newcastle, bar 3 games at Warrington,
and the
the 8th Immortal, or just Matty Johns?
Which no one really talks about. Now, I'd go to... If I was Cooper Johnson, I would easily go for his immortal uncle.
You were about to say father,
yeah, I was. No, his immortal uncle I'd definitely go for. He's just yeah. I was a lot better than Matty Johns, but yeah.
Yeah.
But Melbourne, even without the star players, has shown yet again they can
Nico
still do
Hines, just as well as Cooper Johns, just the fact that they've got the luxury of having Nico Hines there.
Yeah, it's just been really good for him, and each week he's getting better and better, and his contract for next season is going up and up and up like his value. So let's hope Melbourne keep him.
Or have they? At the time of recording this.
Well, yes, have they?
Yeah, we'll leave you to come to your own conclusions on that.
Yeah.
Now, Moving on, I think this was an absolute thriller up in Townsville. Are not going the way everyone thought it'd be going, but the Cowboys coming out on top over the Warriors 29-28.
And it did not go to Golden Point.
No, it did
I
not.
thought it personally was going to until Valentine Holmes slotted a 1-point field goal within the last, dying seconds of the match, you could say. The Cowboys shot out to a really healthy lead at the break, 22-6. And the Warriors just came back at them.
Yeah, I mean, the Warriors shot first through Ewan Aiken and coming back in the things after being ruled out with, I think, was it ankle injury that ruled him out since early on?
Yeah, ankle or shoulder.
I think it was more of the ankle.
Yeah. But he had he got a double, which is handy to have. And it was really close. Like, the Warriors came back really strongly at the end of the match, and the Cowboys couldn't hold them out. They only scored one try themselves through Hamaso Tibiwai with 5 minutes to go.
I'll tell you what, this has now turned for North Queensland into an interesting dilemma out on their left edge. Because they got the hammer, which I think everyone acknowledges is the Cowboys' best try-scoring weapon.
Yeah.
But in recent weeks, it's been Murray Talagi out on that left wing.
Well, he got a, hat-trick in round number 11?
Against the Knights.
And then backed it up again with a try in round 12. So he's got 4 in
definitely
2
going
matches.
at the Warriors' right side defensively, but I think that's a very interesting dilemma for Todd Payton to have.
Well, it is.
Who does he put out left wing? Who does he put out at left centre?
Well, if I was him, I wouldn't be changing much to the lineup, unless you're forced to with injuries and suspensions and with Origin. But I wouldn't be changing the lineup much because they've been coming out of nowhere at the start of the season, the Cowboys, and now they're coming up there and could be a smoky for the top 8.
Amongst others. That top 8's going to get real congested real fast.
I reckon it's going to come down to the very last game of the season to decide who makes the 8 and who doesn't.
I think the biggest moment out of that was the sin binning against the Warriors.
Justin Vada going to the bin.
Yeah. That proved pivotal for the Cowboys to get up over the top of the Warriors.
Look, it did. But the Warriors only let 2 tries in. I mean, 2 tries against 13 men is... If you've got a full strength, full 13 on the field, it's... within 2 minutes, that's bad. But with the sin bin, it's even worse because you try and keep them out and keep the opposition scoreless. But to let 2 tries in 2 minutes isn't that good, so they might need to work on that. But they did have a player in the bin, so that didn't help either.
It's just momentum swings killed the Warriors at the end of it all. And then the icing on the cake, from 40 metres out, not a 2-point field goal, but still a 1-point field goal nevertheless.
I think it was just inside the
Valentine Holmes.
He's coming along well. I thought when he came back last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. He adapted to the game again pretty quick, and even with these new rules again this season, he's adapted to them quick. So he could be. He won't be the top try scorer or the Daily M of the year, but he'll be up in top 10 for Daily M's for sure. Well, in my view.
Well, it's definitely a wait and see on that, and I just think, where does Nathan Brown go? They got back into the fight, only for the Cowboys to get back over the top of them and seal off that win.
Well, I don't know. It's Nathan Brown's got a bit of a headache with himself too. With selecting where he put Tulvashek and Walsh in the starting side when Mamalo's fit and ready to rock and roll.
Or even if Mamalo makes his way back into the side at this juncture.
The only replacement I think...
Oh, well, no, actually, he would, because Marcelo Montoya would drop out.
I was just about to say that. Montoya would drop out.
Again, but I think the question is, can David Fusatua now break back into this Warriors lineup?
Well, for the foreseeable future, I don't think he will. Not with the rate Walsh is playing. He's been playing fantastic football in his short career. And Tulvashek, you can't leave him out.
No, you can't leave Rocket Roger out.
So I'd say it'll be very hard for Fusatua to get back in.
Until Tuivasa-Sheck leaves. But even then, he's probably not guaranteed to start.
Well, no, because you could have Montoya there.
Or even give Rocco Berry or Edward Cossie another chance.
True. It's very, very hard. So
And ultimately, I think Fusitu'a has not been the same player he was when he cleaned up at the 2018 Dally M Awards for the top try scorer. He just hasn't.
yeah, something's not quite right there. Like, I know last year was heavily COVID factored in, and then this year they're not going to return to New Zealand, like play a regular season match over there. So you could say the 2 years playing away from home, it has a toll. But 2019 even he wasn't up there, so he's. I don't know. It's something's not right, but hopefully he comes back to his best.
Well, it's definitely a wait and see on that. Now, your other Friday night clash, the West Tigers getting up over the top at the St. George Illawarra Dragons, 34-18.
And for the second time in a month.
Oh, that's right.
Because we played them at the very, I think, round 8 or 9.
I think it was closer, just before the trip up to Brisbane for the Magic
so
round.
Round 9. And we played them again, and we lost. Even though Tigers were at Bankwest, the Dragons still managed to lose.
How are you even achieving this?
I do not know. I mean, we have been I'm not saying we've been injury plagued because the Roosters are a lot worse off, but the Dragons haven't been full strength for a few weeks. Like, you got Dufty out. Well, at this game, Dufty out. Maguire's out with suspension. Someone else is out suspended. We've had a few suspensions, injuries, and that, so it hasn't really helped in our cause. But Tigers, with Dewey back in centres for a second week running, and
James Roberts.
Yeah, James Roberts. He had a good game coming back, scoring the first and last try of the match for them. So it's.
I think that's a little bit unorthodox to play James Roberts out on the wing, but he didn't have to run. And he didn't have to run far to score either try.
Well, no, but he did gain good field precision for some other tries. Well, yes, 4 tries, but also field precision to help the last tackle, attacking kicker at the end of the set. So they're maybe building on something, Tigers, but I'm not reading into it too much too early because anything can happen.
It can happen. But look, the Tigers' right edge, they definitely caused some trouble for St. George Illawarra.
Yeah.
You have the James Roberts tries, of course, Luciano Leilua continuing to wreak havoc against his former club that let him go for years, is back. Why'd you let him go again?
It was just falling out of favour or the money factor, I think, or we just didn't have enough room or we didn't want him anymore. Like with some other player that we might be getting rid of.
Corey Norman.
Not only that, Matt Dufty.
Yeah, that is the case. You're willing to take the punt on letting Matt Dufty go.
Like we do with Cameron McGuinness. And where's he off to next year?
Well, he's joining Cronulla.
Our local rival. So, yeah.
Another smart St. George manoeuvre in the recruiting department.
With some big news we'll announce later on.
We'll add to that when we cover the round 13, but
18-0 at half-time. Favourite the Tigers, though. Like, we were not in it. Out of the 2 teams, I've been honest, we made too many errors yet again. And the Tigers were just a better team all round. Compared to last time where both teams made a lot of errors. There was only a narrow victory for the Tigers, but this time we just continued making errors and the Tigers were better off.
Yeah, that was definitely the case. Well, speaking about better teams, the first of the triple header, he's already smirking. He's already smirking because he knows what I'm going to say next. And it pains me to say it, but he's also right. Penrith Panthers 30, downing the Canterbury Bulldogs to 4. Oh, look, it's just... Despite the fact it was only like 10-0 at halftime, and had a lot of good field position early, I was practically screaming my head off in anger over the elementary errors that were made. And then the offload for Spencer Lenu's first career try, which will probably be the easiest he will score ever in his professional career.
Yes. Typical Dogs, making too many errors yet again. No, I knew it was going to be a blowout score. But at least the Dogs actually got points on the board this time.
Yeah,
Unlike last time when they played.
yeah. It only took us like 1 hour and 19 minutes
78 minutes
to actually get up on the board, and that we've. And then what do I say about Jack Hetherington? I mean, we shouldn't be railing against this bloke because he's had a bit of a rough time when he's with all this media scrutiny. I mean, it's happened in other sport, but his first game since coming back, since the crackdown was introduced, I would probably think, I wouldn't say in part because of him, because it was the Eels and the Roosters that did that, probably launched that crackdown, but penalised.
He didn't get sin binned. That's a surprise.
I honestly thought, oh, here we go. He's going to get sin binned here. And then it's just like the referee is like, no, on report. And I was like,
that one.
Okay. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Not getting sin binned.
Yeah. But who did get sin binned was Moses Leota, which a minute later the Dogs scored. So that's the only, that pretty much helped the Dogs score with one less player.
Meanwhile, the right edge of Penrith between Stephen Crichton and Charlie Staines were flexing their muscles.
Yes.
Also, the left edge from me, and Poignant, and apart from Matt Burton popping up late.
Steve Crichton.
Yep.
So pretty much all the back line except for Spencer Leniu, they're all back line players that scored.
Yeah,
like you said, Staines, Momorowski, Burton, and Crichton. So you can say the back line's strong, even though there's not full strength.
But once again, the Dogs' left edge and Adam Elliott, he needs to get away from the edge. He needs to go back into the middle where he properly belongs.
Maybe need to run up Trent Barrett and say, hey, put Adam Elliott back into middle, not on the edge.
Well, we're just a small-time under podcast channel.
Yeah. I did see a funny meme about Trent Barrett. It was like old bus or coach, as they say. They said even better, still better than Trent Barrett.
That could coach better than Trent Barrett.
That could coach, better than Trent Barrett.
Yeah, you think you're a funny man.
Hey, I didn't create it.
I know you didn't. You just brought it up.
Yep.
Anyway, moving on. On the Rabbitohs, as we alluded to, Wayne Bennett did certainly pull a trick out of his bag, and a rabbit came out of the hat with that. The Rabbitohs running out 38-20 victors over the Parramatta Eels.
Look, I thought this game, it was only 18 points at the end, but I thought it was going to be a lot closer than what it was. I'm assuming...
Dan Gagai was a man on a mission.
Well, so was Alex Johnston. Johnston got a hat trick and so did Dane Gagai. So
that left edge.
But the start, what happened to the Eels at the start? Damien Cook scoring in the first minute. What start was that for Parramatta? It's not like them at all. That's like a Roosters start.
An omen. It's an omen.
Yep. It's just like a Roosters start as of late.
Yeah, but the Roosters could actually run down a poor start like that.
Yeah, true. And Parramatta couldn't.
The Eels, they were just bullied.
They were.
They were honestly bullied.
Yeah. There
was this point made, and it came from Clarkie's RL column, that he made the point that, sure, the Rabbitohs look good against your average Eels or your Roosters, I would think at this point in time, or even your weaker sides, but you come up against the Panthers or a Storm side, they'll just put 50 on you straight up.
Yeah. There's no consistency with playing top teams for Parramatta. So...
Well, but in fair point, in the Parramatta's defence, they did beat both Melbourne and the Roosters earlier on.
True.
And so we know where Parramatta are capable of, but we just...
it's the back end of the year that they can't quite get right.
Yeah.
The critical games.
Like
the last 5 to 8 weeks, they can't just quite get right. It sounds all too familiar if you ask me. Parramatta's calls didn't go too well either with 2 sin binnings of Isaiah Papali'i.
Which would have helped the Rabbitohs score tries after that, or even before that.
Yes, and then Ryan Madison later on. But Papali'i made up for it by scoring a try himself later on. Yet another try.
They made it competitive, the Eels, but they just couldn't come back fast enough.
No, it was too little too late. They scored 2 tries in the space of 4 minutes through Sivo and Jacob Arthur, but by that stage it was too far out of reach.
Yeah.
Too little, too late, as they say.
Well, this is back-to-back losses for Parramatta now.
Which is
are they on shaky ground?
Well, I think that's only their second loss this season, I believe.
Their third loss, actually.
Third loss, because they lost to the Dragons.
In round 5. Then they lost to Manly.
And they lost to Manly. Now they lost to Root South. So, 3 losses and they've gone once, coming into 2, but yeah. Yeah, so Parramatta could be on pretty shaky terms, as you mentioned.
And also, over the final game from Saturday night, the Sydney Roosters absolutely sticking it to the Canberra Raiders, 44-16 down at Gosford.
Sticking it to Ricky Sticky Stewart? Pun? No, not funny? Okay.
Yeah, leave the sarcasm to me.
Okay.
That's what these new intros are for.
Yeah, true. Look, the Raiders...
It's just you're going to come up with... You're trying to find something positive to talk about the Raiders before you turn around and say you're going to completely shit on them because they fell apart.
Well, they scored 3 tries.
They were trailing 16-10 and then they conceded...
So, it was close.
And then they conceded another 4 or 5 tries in the second half.
1, 2, 3, 4... Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4...
Yeah.
5 tries.
The fact that you actually had to do that
Yeah.
aloud, where people could hear,
yeah,
when you should have been doing it in your head.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But 5 tries in the second half. And Savali got his first ever NRL career try.
And he also got his first try assist. I actually put him in. I actually put him in my Supercoach side when I heard the news. It was because I wasn't actually at home watching the games. I was out. But I heard the news, which is when I was checking things. And I was like, all right, so Walker's out. I'm going to put Suwali Ali in my reserves. Not disappointed. Not disappointed at all.
I did the same thing as you. I actually brought him in for my Supercoach and he played alright compared to last week when I had him in and he didn't play as well.
Last week wasn't friendly circumstances for the Roosters.
Well, no.
This was a much better circumstances. And then Joey Manu playing 5'8".
Mate, he had a blinder of a game. How many tries did he get?
This bloke, he is the Roost. I think people keep pointing back to like, oh, but you lost Latrell Mitchell at the end of 2019. How are you going to replace him? Well, here's your answer. Joey Manu. He could play fullback and 5'8" a lot better than Latrell can.
And he got a double, 2 in a row. And then he set up how many tries and got involved in how many tries. It was literally here, there, everywhere. It was.
I tell you what, the Raiders got lucky. They didn't concede 50. No, yeah, I know they weren't going to make the finals anyway, but if the Roosters got to 50, it would have just been an official statement saying,
bye, Raiders.
You're out.
Yeah.
You're out of luck. You're not going to make it.
No. But the Roosters are just too good. I think this match was meant to be played at HBF Park in Perth,
but panic shifted on the borders.
Yeah.
And certain other forces you're not allowed to talk about.
Right. Yeah.
I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. This is so we don't get censored by the you-know-who.
Yeah. But the Roosters
we got the block on Facebook first. So, anyway, getting back to the point.
Yeah, they're just too good again. And the Raiders just weren't in it. Like, they did get, like I said, 3 tries, but they just weren't in it.
And losing George Williams didn't help either.
That really just put everything on top of, like, they weren't playing as well. Then with everything that's been happening in media, not mentioning who in particular, but you and I both know.
I think most people know, but for the sake of it,
yes,
because probably the biggest mistake you could make, and he should have learned from John Bateman over this, trying to debunk James Hooper at Fox Sports.
Yes.
Because how many times, well, it's only happened twice, but that didn't age well for George, I'm afraid. I'm sorry, it didn't age well because he came out and he tried to claim the story that he got released over a text message. He tried to claim it was false because he was trying to play off it's James Hooper at Fox Sports. He talks a lot of rubbish. We'll just call him some name. And on Twitter will love it.
Yeah.
And then it was proven true in the response when James Hooper returned serve.
Yeah.
Just like with John Bateman.
Yeah.
So what is it with Fox Sports reporters and pundits getting into stoushes with players online, or the other way around, trying to make something with the Fox Sports.
They're trying to make that the Fox Sports. We're not banging anyone, by the way, but they're just trying to make themselves look the good people compared.
Yeah, it's just
like
you got to get back
players.
to Adam Fanua-Blake. I know this is a bit of a tangent here, but you go back to the comments about Adam Fanua-Blake when he was asked about when Paul Kent made the point that he was a privileged person in a position while people all across the country were losing work and losing their job, and he was still there earning a living.
Well,
and what
with a massive pay
and what was
cut.
Fanua-Blake's response to him? Told him to go suck a fat one.
Yeah,
Just no. Paul Kent was right.
he was.
Right, especially at the height when this you know what that can't be named, otherwise we get cancelled.
Yeah,
He absolutely made the point.
yeah, he did, and it's like they took all the players took a massive pay cut as well. So it's not like they were like
10%.
I thought it was more than that.
Oh, I think collectively 10% the salary cap was lowered.
I thought all players
But
got like a
regardless,
60%
the
pay
game
cut,
was
but anyway.
saved. The game saved $400 million from last year into this year,
Yep.
and we got a better product out of it.
Yep, thanks to some boss named Peter Belandis.
And I think, and this is a part of a tangent, as well. We'll get back onto our Sunday coverage before the round 13 predictions. Fortunately, it's an Origin weekend, so it's a lot shorter. But Ray Hadley made this point on NRL 360 when that report came out about Bulldogs and Blues great Steve Mortimer revealing he had dementia because of the head-eye concussions he was suffering. So I feel Hadley was very passionate about that because, I mean, he would have been calling Mortimer in his heyday.
Yep.
And it's sort of like, I think he definitely made the point that while we might not agree with some of the calls that the NRL and the referee might make on the day when it comes to the head-eye tackle and the crackdown enforced on that.
Because it's the heat of the moment and there's a lot of pressure on referees and players.
I've been in parts over some calls, but I think overall we can't deny it anymore. Now that a legend of our game has come out and said he's suffering dementia and he's saying basically he's lost part of his brain.
Yeah. Which is not good.
I think now we got to understand that the NRL have made the right call here.
You're just cracking it down. It's always been written down black and white in the rule book.
I think,
but they're just enforcing it a bit more.
And the players up in arms. I mean, you can't not go off against Volandis or trying to go out against him because he's trying to save the game in the long run. I mean, I think we've talked about this before. There's going to be a lot of short-term pain, like there was with the 6-again end rule when it was first introduced. But come 2022, it will probably be a lot better. And I think, given the way participation rates have been going, I think it could also save the game completely.
So in other words, short-term pain, long-term gain.
Long-term gain.
Long-term gain. Yeah.
Now, that's our little spiel about recent events out of the way. Let's continue with the round 12 wrap. The Cronulla Sharks. Where did they come from? Down the Gold Coast Titans, 38 points to 10.
Well, I did not see this scoreline coming at all. I was expecting the Titans to win, but not to the Sharks. So yes, it was on a neutral ground in Coffs Harbour.
I definitely thought the return of David Fafita would provide a big morale booster for the Titans. Turns out it didn't go that way because apparently the Sharks also received their own morale booster with Sean Johnson's comeback for his 200th game.
And he
put on a show. Especially the left edge of the Sharks, they were definitely firing.
Well, Sean Johnson played that good of a game. He got an early mark. He got taken off the field. They had the game wrapped up anyway. He had 6 on 6 goal kicks.
It also helped that they had players coming back, i.e. Ronaldo Mulatalo coming back.
And he got a double.
And how does he? And he repays Josh Hannay by scoring a double in his return game.
Isn't it the Sharks' second win in a row?
Yes. I don't think they're going to make the finals, but they're definitely.
No, but it's a change of fortune to what it was from when Josh Hannay first took over.
Oh yeah, definitely a change
very,
of
very
fortune.
good sign. And coming to Origin, there could be a few more wins for the Sharkies.
Look, even though the Titans did score first, they weren't helped by the sin binning of Big Tino Fasua Malawi early,
No,
and then losing Jamal Fogarty late, and he was giving it to the referee as well.
he was.
Yeah.
See some calls, and I think that Jamal Fogarty is a perfect one. See, other games that might not have been a sin bin, that could have been just on report and penalty, but this one was a send off, sin bin. So it's sometimes a little bit inconsistent, but it's depending how each referee reads the rule. See, everyone reads things differently, so maybe I don't know who the referee was for that game, but he just.
Well, you got the notes right there. You could probably see it very quickly if you actually have them attached. No, you don't.
No, I could be wrong, but I think it might have been Grant Atkins. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on it. But look, it's just how they read the rules. Like, everyone reads the rules differently. It's like how every supporter of the great game of rugby league reads the games differently. It's simple as.
Yeah, it is.
But the Titans,
they fell apart defensively, and it did turn into a feeding frenzy for the Sharks.
It did.
And there was a point where Matt Moylan did break away, and guess who was deciding to lead the chase? It was Jared Wallace.
Yeah.
It could have turned into another Papali on Fogarty, and Moylan could have coughed up the ball, but
no.
Fortunately, he was able to hang on for that.
He did, very much so. Who else had a good game? Jack Williams. He scored, I think, his first career try.
No, I think he scored more.
Sorry,
more
not his
tries.
first, but very minimal tries he scored. It's good to see him. He played really good.
And then just the blessing that is the utility of Connor Tracy.
He's been unbelievable. He's been the best utility so far this season, I believe. He's played
because he's had to be.
He's played halves, centre. Literally anywhere you put him, he'll do the job.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put him in the front row, though, because he's going to get rolled over by some...
He hasn't got the size.
No, he's going to get steamrolled by the bigger men in our game.
Yeah.
Lock forward, it might be a bit of a stretch. He could definitely end up playing lock forward, but other than that, not in the front row.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the referee for the Titans Sharks game was Chris Sutton, not Grant Atkins. My apologies there.
Now, final game of round 12, the Newcastle Knights somehow scoring an 18-10 win over the Manly Sea Eagles.
It was, I believe it was a cracking game of football. Where did Knights come from?
I don't know.
They hadn't been there for such a long time, but now they got a win against Manly, and I think it was Manly's first or second loss with Tommy Turbo back.
Yeah,
but
unbelievable.
I do feel very, very sorry for the third Trbojevic brother, Ben.
Ah, yes, Ben Trbojevic.
A minute 40 left in the match.
And then he gets cleaned up by David Clemmer with a minute to go.
Yes, it's very, very
I actually saw that, him getting cleaned up by Clemmer. Because I was just heading up, and I saw that happen. And I'm just like, oh, Jesus.
I think Des Hasler has come out and said I could be wrong. I could not might have been him, but someone has come out and said from Manly that Hasler didn't use the bench well all match, and how he used Ben Trbojevic wasn't well done.
Because I think he was taking a dummy half run, his only run of the game.
Yeah, it's Ben Trbojevic should have played at least 15, 20 minutes.
I would have given him 20, whether it was because he was brought in for Curtis Sirenin.
Yeah.
So I would have thought they would have substituted him, maybe with Sean Kepi, or they would have tried. Who was the other second row they had on the day? Because I'm pretty sure it wasn't Ola Kawatu, because I think he was ruled out with injury again. But definitely no Sean Kepi was in the second row for Manly.
Yeah, but it's just so sad to see how his debut went. Like you say,
that's right, Carl Lawton.
That's right. So you saw Sam Walker's debut. We've seen Reece Walsh's debut. We saw Sawali's debut. Yes, he didn't have he had a good game, but not as good as like Walsh and Walker. And then you see Ben Trbojevic, who had a poor debut game. But that wasn't his choice because of Des Hasler's poor bench use.
Yes, it was. Despite it was a tight tussle early.
It was. It was 12-10 in favour of the Knights at half-time. Somehow, after Manly blew out to a 10-point lead within 20 or within the half an hour, and 2 tries in quick-ish succession for Newcastle. Put them
and
in
then
front.
Daniel Safiti just further stating that he is for New South Wales.
Yeah.
Comes up with the match-winning try.
Yeah. And what about Cherry Evans' attempt at the 2-point field goal right at the end?
What a 12-10 to try and level things up.
Yep.
Well, it could have worked.
It was 12-10. He had a shot, but he was ultimately wide. And Newcastle not going down the other end and scoring.
But it was 7 tackle sets.
I don't think it was the very next set, but that was later on in the match. But anyway, Newcastle coming away with another victory, the first time in a long time, so it was good to see him.
Now, we got a shortened round 13 because of State of Origin, and as such, we only have 4 games to look at. And we start off Thursday night with the St. George Illawarra Dragons hosting the Brisbane Broncos. A couple of changes for the Broncos with no Payne Haas and Xavier Coates for State of Origin duties. So Selwyn Cobbo gets his first crack on the wing for his first game of the year. Anthony Milford is dropped
again.
No surprise. So Albert Kelly will partner Tyson Gamble in the halves. Tom Flegler moves from lock to the front row to compensate for the loss of Haas, with Alex Glenn back in the lineup for the first time in what seems like a lifetime.
It does. Very much so.
At the same time, John Asiata is promoted to start at lock forward, as Keenan Palazzi is pushed back to the bench alongside Ethan Bollamore and the recently resigned TC Robate.
Was making his debut, I believe.
I think he made his debut last week against the Storm.
Anyway, for the Dragons, a very, very big inclusion.
And by his tone, very welcome.
Very welcome inclusion. Jack is back as in Jack DeBell, and he is making his long-awaited NRL return after playing reserve grade last week. He is back on the bench in jersey number 17.
After 3 years out of the game and 2 trials that ended both in a hung jury.
Yep.
And then eventually the charges being dismissed altogether.
Yeah. So it's very, very good news that he's back. Other changes is Matt Duffy is back in the at fullback. Josh Kerr also is back from his suspension. DeBellin's also back in because Tarek Sims is on Origin duty. Cody Ramsey goes to the wing with Ravalawa coming back. Sees Jordan Pereira drop back to the reserves list. Braden Williami goes into the centres with the other Jack, and Jack Bird goes back to the second row.
Well, you really got 3 Jacks in there. You got a Jackson, and then you got the 2 Jacks.
True. And then Billy Burns is left out altogether. Well,
before heading into this, just to sit down and discuss this, you would have thought the Dragons would have been an easy win.
Well, surely, yeah.
I still think they are. I think the Broncos might try and throw something just for a little while, but the way the Dragons have been playing, it has not gone well.
Well, no, the Dragons haven't been playing well, but we are getting back to nearly full strength with Duffy's back. We've got DeBellin back. I don't know how many minutes he'll play. He played, I think, 44 minutes.
I think it's the impact he's going to have around the side that they finally got him back.
Yes.
Like that, I think it could add something of a turbocharger to how they might perform.
Yeah. So, Ravalawa's back. Duffy's back. Jack's back. I personally think DeBellin should have played at least another couple more games in reserve grade, but Anthony Griffin doesn't think so.
Well, Griffin's made the bed. Now he's got to sleep in it.
Yep.
I think the Broncos' right side defensively will have a lot of questions that need to be answered. When you got Jack Bird, Cody Ramsey, and Braden Williami all coming at you, that will be a big defensive test for them.
It will be interesting to see how Jack Bird comes in playing in the second row. He's been playing most of the year at centre, an occasional game in the halves. So it'll be good to see how he goes. A big threat for the Dragons from the Broncos will be Albert Kelly. If he played as good as he did against the Roosters, again, against the Dragons, he will be a massive threat.
Well, when all's said and done, I think the Dragons will come away at it 1-12. I think the Broncos will offer more resistance than they showed against the Melbourne Storm, where it was basically they surrendered.
True. Dragons will win. I'm saying that again. I'm going to say they're going to win by 16. I reckon the Bellum will have...
So you think this is going to be a big win?
Yes. And another bold prediction, I reckon Jack Bellum will score on his NRL return.
Well, it would be
It'll
nice,
be
wouldn't it?
such a fairy tale.
It would be nice.
Such a sweet fairy tale return for Jack Bellum.
Now, Battle of the West between the West Tigers and the Penrith Panthers, and boy, has Ivan Cleary had to make some changes. Fortunately, Dylan Edwards returns for the Panthers at the most opportune time, so Stephen Crichton will shift out to the centres, joining Paul Moravsky, Robert Jennings, Matt Burton and Tyrone May in a completely new Panthers backline. Meanwhile, in the forwards, Isaiah O is picked for the Blues, so Matt Eisenhuth comes in at lock forward, and Scott Sorensen replaces Kurt Capewell. Meanwhile, Spencer Leniu, Mitch Kenny, both start up front, with no Moses Leota, who has been ruled out of this game, to partner James Fisher-Harris, and then a completely rookie bench between Jamin Salmon, Jermaine Hopgood, Lindsay Smith, and Isaac Tago.
And you also had to remember to have Matt Burton's in at 5'8".
Yeah, that's what I already said.
Yeah, and Tyrone May, yeah. It's just, yeah, we'll get back to our views in a second. The Tigers, Leilua is free to play after being found not guilty at the judiciary. With Joe Offengawi out on Origin, Alex Seyfarth has been promoted to the starting side to replace him. Stefano, I can never get his last name. Oitukamanu is back on the bench in pretty much the other unchanged lineup, I believe. Yeah, mate, this is the perfect time to play.
This is a perfect storm. I would have to say this would actually be a perfect storm.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Well, Penrith have got no Coruscant, no To'o, no Yo, no Luai,
and the
no
reason
Martin,
why
no
that Api
Leota,
Coruscant,
no Cleary.
and the reason why Coruscant is not actually named is because he was designated as Brad Fittler's 18th man.
Yes.
And as the 18th man, he actually has to play or be on standby. In case the 18th man protocols are engaged.
Yes. Which, the rate the game's been going since Magic Round, it's a possibility.
It is a heavy possibility. So
this could be the end of Panthers' run of 12 straight.
Well, with that 12 straight, they became the third team in Australian Rugby League history to achieve a 12-0 start.
The others would be
South Sydney in 1925. Admittedly, there were only 12 games
matches, so the season undefeated. Yep.
And the Manly Sea Eagles in 1995.
Although
they did go on to lose the grand final to the Sydney Bulldogs at that point in time, as we came from outside the 8 to down St George, Norths, and Canberra on our way to claim victory in Terryland's sort of farewell season.
Yeah. Tigers. They've been on a bit of a roll lately. They beat the Dragons. Twice.
They steamed over the top of the Knights.
Yes. So they've been playing pretty good footy at the moment. So, and with a pretty much unchanged lineup,
well, Matt Burton will definitely be the biggest threat the Tigers have to contend.
Because he's actually back in his preferred position.
Yeah.
For once in a long time. Dylan Edwards, he's obviously back. Charlie Staines, he's been in good form. Christian Crichton. Stephen Crichton's been in good form. Kickout, he's staying. So it's really a real test for one, Panthers' depth, and two, of how good their team is without.
I think it'll also be the test to see how Penrith come out of Origin as well.
Well, yeah, that too. Because there's obviously...
Because you've got no Brian To'o, so he's one of your top try scorers.
Yep.
Nathan Cleary and Jerome Luai are both out, and they're your first choice halves that have been dominating the season.
Yep.
Isaiah Yo, your other co-captain.
Yep.
Kurt Capewell and Liam Martin, so that's second row of depth gone,
Yeah.
as well as Appy Coruscant, who's the Blues' 18th man.
Yeah, it's going to be a test for him. I don't know. I heard it's going to take the captaincy this week for him. Because Joe's out.
I think it would fall to James Fisher-Harris.
You'd think so. So
easily Fisher-Harris.
It would be a test for him to see how well he goes as captain as well. But it's going to be like I said,
it will be a cracker.
A cracking game, and it's going to be a real test. But I say the Tigers are going to come out and win.
I was thinking for a stage, Penrith might come out 13 plus and win this. But thinking of all the players that they are missing, I think the Tigers could pull off a scalp here. Like a big scalp.
And be the first one to defeat Penrith.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go just with the quality of players that are missing out of that Penrith side and a whole lot of pressure on a whole lot of youngsters. I'm going to have to say the Tigers win this 1-12 at Leichhardt Oval.
Yes. I'm saying Tigers 1-12 and win by 12. It game of the round right there, I believe. Easy. Penrith's dominance will come to an end.
Now, Melbourne Storm having to relocate again because of a situation involving the things we're not allowed to talk about.
Yes.
So they've had to relocate back to their second home away from home at the Sunshine Coast against the Gold Coast Titans. Titans forced into a couple of changes. Jaden Campbell comes in for AJ Impson as he is away on Origin duties. Ash Taylor is back in the halves alongside Jamal Fogarty. Eamon Jolliffe comes in for Tino Fasu-Malawi in the front row. Oh, and Sam Stone and Sam McIntyre form a new second row combination with Kevin Proctor, with no David Fafita, and Tyrone Peachy dropping back to the bench alongside Aaron Clark, Jai Whitbread, and Joseph Vuna, as well as Jared Wallace lifted to the starting side with no Moaki Fotuaika. As
for the Melbourne Storm, they haven't been that heavily affected by Origin this year as they have in previous years. Kenny Bromwich is back and will replace Felicio Fusi, who will be able to play with Dean Iramia getting the take over from another Origin rep in Josh Adokar.
And Cooper Johns.
Cooper Johns back again to start at 5'8", with Nelson Sofa-Salamurda getting another start in the front row, and Chris Lewis will be on the bench. So compared to other years gone by, Storm haven't been really
the
heavily
Melbourne Storm have not been affected since Cameron Smith retired from the Origin arena.
They had Cronk, Smith, Slater.
But since Cameron Smith retired from the Origin arena, they haven't been affected.
No, not really.
And even after his actual retirement, Melbourne still haven't been affected.
No. Well, Harry Grant, he's been out injured, but he has been named in the.
He has been cleared to play, so that's why they sent Reid Marnie home.
Yes, but I'm surprised none of the Bromwich brothers got selected.
What, you're saying two Kiwis didn't get picked for Queensland?
Oh, well, the Kiwis. Well, yeah, I forgot about them being Kiwi reps. Hey, if they weren't Kiwi reps, they would have been selected. Come on. Anyway, Finucane, he's a bit of a surprise. He's played Origin before, but his form hasn't been that good this year.
I don't think he just hasn't had any match fitness.
Not really.
Since he only came back in round 5, and he's only been back for 7 weeks. I wouldn't have picked him.
Well, Salmon hasn't been playing back that much longer, and he's been selected. Not mentioning names until later on. Latrell Mitchell. Anyway.
Look, just after the Titans' performance against the Sharks, you can't go past the Storm to put 13 plus on them.
It's going to be, yeah. Even with a few Origin players out to both sides, Jaden Campbell, who is the son of Titans legend Preston Campbell, mind you, he'll get a run, but it will be a Storm 13 plus victory by 18. Storm 18.
And the final game of round 13 in the shortened format, we have the Newcastle Knights up against the Parramatta Eels, and it is old boys round in the Hunter Valley.
Yes, it's usually, just quickly, usually the last home game of the season.
But they've bumped it up to this one, probably because it will be used to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the 2001 Grand Final.
Well, there you go.
Anyway, changes for the Eels. Blake Ferguson has paid the price for, well, I think many would say poor form in recent weeks. With Hayes Dunster coming into the right wing. The loss of Junior Paulo has been offset by the gain of Regan Campbell-Gillard. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, with Harry Grant at full fitness, Reid Marnie has been sent home to play for Parramatta this weekend. That does mean with Dylan Brown's return, Jacob Arthur is out of the side, right, as well as Junior Paulo, and Will Smith snags the utility spot alongside Shaw Lane, Oregon Kafusi, and Bryce Cartwright on the bench.
As for Newcastle, Clemmer has
been suspended
for 2 weeks, so he's going to be out. So Suaso Su replaces him with Jacob Southbeat taking over from his brother Daniel, who's on Origin duty for the Blues. Brody Jones will take over from Tyson Frizzell, who's been ruled out because of injury for 6 weeks. Kurt Mann has been added to the interchange alongside Nathaniel Sasagi and Jack Johns, who is making his first night's appearance. And brings the Johns name back to the town of Newcastle.
We were just talking about Cooper Johns just in the last game, and now we're going to talk about Jack in the other one.
Yeah, look, it's good to see the Johns name back in Newcastle after being a long time. How he'll go, we don't know.
It depends how much game time they get. And Parramatta will be looking for a response.
Definitely. And they're full strength, pretty much.
I'm looking at that middle. Campbell, Gillard, Marnie, and now Marata Niokore added to it. With no Junior Paulo. And with the return of Dylan Brown as well, Parramatta have got to come out and make a point right here, right now.
Yeah. It's a good time to... with Harley being affected by Origin, it's really, really
I
good.
honestly thought Clint Gutherson would have been named.
Well, to be honest, I agree. But he's not. It's very, very surprised. He may be included in game 2.
And as for Campbell Gillard, he cost himself an Origin berth when he got suspended.
True. And Frizzell, he would have been named in the state of New South Wales in the side, but because of injury, he's ruled out for the whole series.
Yeah.
I reckon Parramatta will win. Nice. It's just, yes, they came off a home victory over Manly, but it's still not going to be strong enough to beat Parramatta. Parramatta will be too good.
Whether or not they play Jake Clifford, who did make the switch to Newcastle from the Cowboys within the last week.
And he was in Newcastle when the team won against Manly, so...
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was. He wasn't playing, but he was in... There was a team photo at the end of the match, and here he is in the team photo.
Huh. But,
so he's already down here.
I'm just thinking Parramatta have a lot riding on this result. I think even though Newcastle were able to ground Manly out, who are entitled to have off days, and they haven't had
all teams.
Yeah. Look, I don't think they have the halves that can direct the forwards around or the backs to match it up with this Parramatta Eels side. But I think the Eels will have to dig deep defensively, especially on their right edge, if they're going to stay within touch of the top of 2 teams. So I'm going to have to say Parramatta win 1-12.
Look. The better team coming into the match is Parramatta. Yes, they had an off game, but they was against the top side. And the Knights, yes, they also did win a game, but they just haven't been quite as good as what they should be. They wanted to stay... Well, they are still in touching distance of the top 8, but not by much. But Parramatta will win 13 plus to win by 20.
Now... Very quickly, before we shift on to part 2 of our coverage for this week, the first team lists for State of Origin Game 1. And we'll talk more controversy later, but now, here are the lineups as they are. For New South Wales, James Tedesco lines up at fullback. Really no surprise there, and he will take the captaincy in the absence of Boyd Cordner. Brian To'o and Josh Adokar will form the wing partnership for this, With Latrell Mitchell, after 2 years out, he's back in the lineup alongside Tom Trbojevic. The halves are Jerome Luai and Nathan Cleary, as talked about by Penrith's mass origin exodus. In the forwards, Isaiah Yeo takes the lock forward spot off Jake Trbojevic, and he's joined in the second row alongside Cameron Murray and Tarek Sims, with up front being Daniel Safiti, Damien Cook, and Jake Trbojevic. And finally, off the interchange, the very lucky Jack Whiten, Junior Paulo, Payne Haas, and Liam Martin. And in the reserves, Api Coruscant, Campbell Graham, and as of late, Kian Kalola Matungi.
Yes.
Coached by Brad Fittler.
Yes. As for the... Should I say it?
That dirty, filthy word that we dare not speak. Well, unless we actually have to speak it.
North of the border team. The team that's going to get the L on Wednesday. I'm not saying the team name.
But you're going to have to read out their team list.
Unfortunately, I've been given the honours. Kalen Pona... Oh, sorry. Pona was the starter fullback, but now he's not because he's been ruled out injured. So Valentine Holmes goes to fullback. Who was replacing Holmes in the win?
Kyle Felt.
So he'll make his Origin debut. So the fullback will be Holmes. The winners would be Xavier Coates and Kyle Felt, with the centres being Kurt Capewell and Dan Gagai. The halves are Cameron Munster and Dale Cherry Evans.
Manly.
The back row, the lock will be Jai Arrow, with the second row full of Felice Kofusi and David Fafita, with Christian Welsh, Harry Grant, and Tino Fa'asuamaleaui up front. And on the bench, you got AJ Brimson, Jaden Sewer, Moeki Fodawoka, Joe Offenhengawi, with the reserves Reid Marnie, Cohen Hess, and who?
Well, it's only really Cohen Hess now.
Yeah, because Reid Marnie's gone. Kyle Felt's been promoted to starting, so yeah, only Cohen Hess at the moment.
Honestly,
and coached
by Paul
Green. He's first shot at the Maroons,
succeeding Wayne Bennett, who did win the series last year.
Unfortunately.
Looking at the Blues side, I mean, what's not there? And just thinking about it,
I would put Pappenhausen off the bench
if he was available.
If he was fit and available,
which he probably still isn't.
No. And I'd probably put Jack White and alongside Cleary in halves.
Well, I think many people were thinking Jerome Luai wasn't going to get named, despite every single pundit saying, yeah, it's going to be Jerome Luai.
Well, they were right. But I was surprised Gutherson's not been named anywhere.
Nah, I definitely think his form has been up to scratch. I'm not sure why Freddie thought that Gutherson wasn't worthy of getting named.
Because he could have easily been a reserved. He could have been 18th man. Because I'd feel like if Pappenhausen was fit and healthy, Pappenhausen would have been number...
Pappenhausen would have been bench utility.
He would have been. And then we would have had Tedesco at fullback and Mitchell and Trbojevic in halves, as is the case.
As for Latrell Mitchell, what's your take on it?
I don't know. When he was out suspended, I thought he won't play Origin. Well, I know I'm wrong. I could have put Gutherson there instead, possibly. But that's not the case to be. I would have put Jake Trbojevic a prop. I would have left him at lock, like where he's used to. And Isaiah Yeo could have... I wouldn't have had Isaiah Yeo on my side. He's a good player, but I wouldn't have had him in my side.
I would actually have questions about playing Cameron Murray in the second row.
Well,
given what's happened at club level, when he has played second row, he has gone missing.
Well,
and to be honest, South Sydney are lucky that they've got at least one, let alone 3 players in this Blues line. I believe it is 3. Wait. Yeah, Mitchell, Cook, and Murray. They're very lucky that they actually have a somewhat of a representation in the New South Wales lineup.
Yeah. I'm surprised Tarek Stibbs has been selected as well. Like, yes, he's had good games this season, but I don't think...
He's stood up completely.
No, I don't think he's up to Origin spec this year. You got to look at the bench though. Junior Paul, coming off the bench
And Payne Haas.
and Payne Haas.
You would be concerned about that
maybe
middle
would have started
rotation.
Payne Haas in place of maybe Sims, because I would have had, or Jack Dvojevic, because I would have had Jack Dvojevic at lock, but that's incorrect. I don't know how Brad Fittler will use Jack Whiten coming off the bench.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that goes. And I think the same has to be said about AJ Brimson. But very quickly, two of Paul Green's selection choices, Jaden Sewer and Joe Ofahengawi.
Well, yeah.
Well, Sewer mainly, because he got dumped by Wayne Bennett.
He did.
And Joe Ofahengawi's been in and out of the Tigers side since...
But he has been a good player for them. Yeah, but I agree then to bit of a surprise conclusions. Harry Grant getting the nod over Reid Marnie.
It was pretty much touch and go.
It was. I don't know if I would risk Harry Grant coming in. He's been injured for the last few weeks. And I would have started Reid Marnie, to be honest, and make sure that Harry Grant was right for game 2.
Yeah.
Having AJ Brimson, it's like Jack White. How do you play him?
Yeah, that would be the main thing.
Cherry, haven't seen Munster in the halves. There's no surprise there.
No, there isn't.
Absolutely no surprise there. With Val Holmes at fullback without Ponner being there. I mean, Ponner, he has been playing alright football, but he hasn't been exceptionally overly done well this season, in my view. But
and then the whole part where Queensland gets 2 back-to-back home games.
That's controversial.
That's horseshit.
Yeah.
That is ultimate horseshit. Even with the MCG being and all of Melbourne being plunged into lockdown, and then of course I was trying to maybe arrange Adelaide or Perth on a short basis.
Or Canberra.
It should have been in Canberra.
Yeah.
Why should Queensland have 2 games at home in Queensland straight up?
Well, generally, if it's not a neutral ground season, you would have probably this season it would have been New South Wales, Queensland, New South Wales, and then the next year would have been Queensland, New South Wales, Queensland, like it does on and off. But because that's not our neutral venue was in this year, they've got Queensland 2 in a row, which is severely unfair to New South Wales people.
It's a rip-off.
But I did hear that New South Wales did put in a bid to host a match at Bankwest Stadium, but was unsuccessful, clearly. And to be honest, Queensland Country Bank Stadium can only hold 25,000 people, but they are getting temporary grandstands to try and squeeze more people in. And Bankwest can only hold 30,000, so
only hold 30,000.
With all the money they spent, they should have held more. So that's why I reckon Canberra would have been, Canberra, Adelaide, or Perth would have been a better off option because they can hold, especially Adelaide and Perth can hold more people, which is what you need in an Origin match, not like 25,000 plus or 30,000.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. We just have to suck it up. And north of the border will get to L.
Well, I want you to hold that thought because we're going to reveal it right up until the eve of Origin 1. And what I mean by that, we're probably going to just say it Wednesday morning. So, hold that thought. Coming up next, the Betfred Super League wrap from round 8 and your look at the Challenge Cup semi-finals. We'll be back after this short break.